Good morning, everyone. Let us come with some new concept in Python. So let's we start with class and object. As we all know that class is definitely a blueprint, you may say, which is just like an object constructor, and it is using for creating objects. So Python, as we know, it's a object-oriented programming language, and almost everything in Python is an object with its properties and methods. So let us be start with some of the basic fundamentals that what exactly all about that class. Suppose a class is a prototype of a building. A building contains all the details about the floor, doors, and windows, etc. We can make as many that buildings as we want based on certain guidelines and certain details. Hence, the building can be seen as a class, and we can create as many objects of this class. So the concept is this, that a class is wonderful that a virtual entity, you may say, that is used for as a blueprint for an object, and the class came into existence when it is instantiated. So let's understand it by definitely by an example. So in Python, there is a concept of that class, and the syntax is class name. So firstly, we will see the syntax of that class, class name, class name, and then follow up with colon. Then we have statement. So this is that we have for as a syntax. Now let us we take one example and try to understand how it works in Python. Class employee. We have taken one class as employee, and then some of the variables. ID suppose 10, and we have taken name. Suppose we have this. That's the name is, you may take any name you may take, suppose Ashu. So this is that name we have. Then as we discussed in our lecture of that function, we have used here one user defined function. So we have taken a function def, and to display the results, we will take this display as a function name, and then self is working as a this, which is very similar working of this in the Java. Self is working same way in Python. So we have print and the self dot id. Two variables we have taken, self dot id and self dot name. So let us see name, and finally we have this concept. So this is that the concept which is very important, and definitely when we are going to print this result, outcome should be id equals to 10 and name, it should be Ashu. So 10 and Ashu should be the outcome. Let us run this program by pressing shift enter. Just see what should be the result. This is that one of the thing that we generally use that in data structure, and generally when we deals with that object oriented programming techniques, that the main that concern is towards that how to use these concepts of class and objects. So this is very vital when we try to execute these concepts. This is important in that sense. So here we have used class as employee, and name of the class is employee, and then ID that is equals to 10, and name is equals to Ashu, and then we use that display that function. So one thing that is very important, that we have to we are just using this calling also 1 minute, and display is going to be called, and again we shift and enter this. So Here there is something which is important during this concept of class and that object, how to execute these things together. So this is that syntax we have. Again, we take one another example. We have this class employee id 10, a name that Ashu, and def display self, as we have taken print. We already have these two things print, so we simply make certain changes that in this program. What we do, we simply put employee as variable, and that employee class emp employee class. So we just make that indentation, that is very important, employee, and then after that employee we are putting this that object emp dot and display, and then save this, control s and shift enter. So 10 and Ashu comes. So this is that the way that we generally use the concept, that class employee. We have a class, a name employee, then id equals to 10, name equals to Ashu. Then we have a function, user defined function display. In this we pass self working similar as this working in Java. Then we have these two value is going to be print. Then we just create an object imp, and through that object we just call this function display, and then it returns the value 10 in Ashu. So this is the way that we use this class and its syntax, that how this works in that direction. So this is important when we talk about this. Is simply you can say imp is working as an instance of the class. A class needs to be instantiated if we want to use the class attributes in another class or method. So a class can be instantiated by calling the class using the class name. So here you may write that imp is working as instance of a class, instance of class. It is used to for the purpose of using attributes of class, and we can use this by simply uh, calling class with class name and follow up with parenthesis pair, calling with class name with parenthesis pair. This pair. This way. So now I just brief this whole concept. First is class. Class is a virtual entity, which is a wonderful that blueprint that we have for an object, and class is required for an object to create an object. We have taken one example of building. We may make several buildings. Inside the buildings, we may have doors, windows, and floors. Everything is there. So there are certain guidelines, there are certain details through which we can make different buildings. So you can imagine building is a class. Now object is something which is having identity, which is having operation, which is having behaviors, so all these attributes. So that is the concept of an object. And in this example we have created one class. After that we just given two variables, and then we created a user defined function display. We pass self as a this through this function, and then print value of id and name. Here we create an instance of a class. So to use the attribute of a class, we have to call the class. So for that we have a syntax class name along follow with that pair of parentheses, and finally we call that user defined function display, and then we get this result that we have 10 and Ashu. When you say about the object, suppose object is you can say your account number is an object. So when you talk about the ID of account number, your account number is itself is an ID which is unique. You can't say one ID account number is given to several pupils. So it doesn't happen because it is a unique, it is a primary key account number. Second is state, whether it is regular account or it is current account, it is saving account, what type of account it is. And third is about its behavior. If you have account in bank, so you may deposit money or you may withdraw money. So that is the perfect example of how we can say object. Object is an entity having id, having state and behavior. Behavior is something which is which you can correlate with external behavior. So thank you very much for with me this session. If you like this video, please subscribe my channel and press bell icon so you may get notification of new videos. And finally, this is that we have from this session. Thank you very much.